Thank you guys for coming out. Hopefully it's been a pretty productive day across the board. You're in your final leg of the journey for today before cocktails, so hopefully we don't bore you too much to be the slow divider between now and 6 p.m. or 5 whenever you start drinking. A couple things. We announced the BPT synergy earlier today, and for us, historically, that was what we were calling intent data partnership with ZoomInfo, really taking your information, bringing it together, and then obviously giving that update to you on Tuesdays. You get an email, you get the intent information, which you'll start seeing synergy, and then you take action. So Maria and I are going to walk through the front end. I'll talk about more of the, call it the technology, the data side of it. And then Maria's going to walk through how to apply that going forward. And so I think the first slide is more of a level set. When we think about intent and what it means, first of all, it's not 100% accurate, just so we're clear. I think that's the illusion that we've run into is I have a customer, I see intent data around cybersecurity, and then we call that person we know at the company and they go, I have no idea about this. So don't take it as a matter of fact, take it as directional and what that means in regards to how we look at the information. So a couple things, you're gonna see this concept around the data set is collected via third-party surveys, white paper downloads, email opens, and the way that it really works is it's a reverse lookup on the IP address. That's associated to a company in a master table, you know, for their an IP address world. And we then take that information, we surface that, and then from there, we today we amplify that in the signal. So if you haven't logged in the signal and top right-hand side of the signal, it says marketing. First one is all intent for your, second one's all intent for your customers. That's like active customers, and then you can see intent all companies, and that's more prospects and customers, so think of it that way. The big push there is we amplify that out today via email. The next portion of that will tie into what I talked about earlier in the new product called Amplify, which is a recommendation engine. So we'll start saying, here's your customer, here's what they have with us, here's the intent information, now go take action. So you'll start to see that full circle come together. Audience strength, signal strength, like that's the structure. Just, I'm not gonna read all the words on there because it's, we can do this as a follow-up. But it's really looking at like A's, B's, C's. Probably most of us had C's in high school and college, so we're familiar with that grade. A's and B's, that to me is like, hey, they've done a lot of activity. So that's a better discussion with the client. Again, it's more, hey, what are you doing around UCAS? What are you doing around security? And you may be involved in another opportunity, but it's more, what's that adjacent sale that you may think about in regards to that? B's are similar. C's are kind of the cusp of like, okay, someone did something, but it's not like high interest necessarily or high volume. So let's put them into marketing campaigns. D's, F's, I'm a big fan of like, put them into a marketing campaign, create the awareness, create the brand, get them thinking about you. So there's a bunch of things that are flying around, and I don't expect you to memorize them all, but it's really, how do we think about it? Where's it coming from? What's the topic, which then relates to technology? What's the technology? What relates to a marketing campaign? And then Maria will go deeper into that. So high level makes sense? Yeah. The view is interesting because we do a ton of marketing on behalf of the brand is the way I kind of break this down in my head. We have a bunch of BPT activity, And if you think about all the BPT activity in marketing, that's stuff we're doing at the corporate level. Then there's the strategist level where you're sending out, you're posting on LinkedIn, you're posting on Instagram, whatever. And then there's like the individual, I'm emailing a specific contact in order to create some sort of reaction. When you have all of those things coming together, that's where we can ultimately enhance what's coming from the third party intent, which in this example, our partner is ZoomInfo. So we'll continue to scale or expand that. But ZoomInfo is doing all their own third party research. We're doing our research in marketing. We're doing our own marketing. You're doing marketing. And on the back end, we can get all the scores related to the activity. So it's a lot of moving parts that frankly, you just can't do alone. So this step back is do all these things, take a moment, kind of what I said earlier, pause, look at the information, and then from there it's, okay, what's my activity? What's my next step? That's how all of this starts to really come into play. So what does it look like? Or how do you use it? Or how do I think about using it? It's really these, and this is a horrible setup for me. So one, I don't know what to do with my hands. Two, this is a bad angle for me. So high interest accounts goes back to my A's and B's. That's the big push there. But also like your high interest customers that you're engaged with. Some of you I've talked to where, we have client advisors supporting your accounts. Some of them you have much better relationships with different levels throughout the hierarchy of the customer. All it's just saying is like, take the information and drive that forward. Number two is the segment and target. To me, this is where it gets fascinating because you have a global view of your customers. You now have intent data on your customers. And what you can actually do is segment them. And how many are on Instagram or TikTok? No one on TikTok. Wrong room. Owen's the only one who raised his hand. Instagram. How many are MySpace? So the item here, though, this is a real thing, is like those are all targeted ads based on some activity. And that's what we have to start thinking about is like, what's the activity, what's the targeted ad that we can go hit our customer, hit our prospect with. And that's where this information starts to, again, come together. For us, customer firmographics are like size, location, industry, all of that information sits in the signal. So you can actually like build these lists and compile them so that you're like looking at target A, target B, target C, intent data of each, go put them in marketing campaigns. So it's pretty straightforward in regards to like how the third thing is enroll them into the account-based marketing. That's just creating awareness based on what you want them to know about. And then the two things here, and I'm not gonna hit LinkedIn Navigator because Maria's gonna do a deeper dive on that. But this whole idea around like behavior and follow-ups, it's like not working out every day. You keep telling us you're working out, but you're not going. You're doing the same thing where you're not following up on the information we're giving you. The reality of this, and it's really important, is like time is the win. Like we have to be able to respond and look at activity almost daily. So those of you that take supplements, you take them every day, you get healthy over time. Those of you take supplements one day a week, oh, look at it, did nothing to you. So that's the reality of this, is like, if you're not constantly putting it into some sort of cadence, it's gonna be super challenging. You're gonna throw up your arms, you're gonna say it's not working, and the reality is like, it's just routine setup. Do it when you log in the morning, look at it, decide what the next step is. So it's part of the deal. And then your upsell, cross-sell, that whole idea is, again, you've already sold them something, you sold them network, you sold them UCAS, CCAS. The whole idea around there is like, we just want to give you more visibility to what possibly could be the next sale. The way I break this down, and this is a simple slide that I think about every day, we don't want to be the left side of the slide. The left side of the slide is what is becoming irrelevant. The left side of the slide is probably many have seen. You have margin compression, you have a lot of churn. It's the, frankly, it's the legacy way of selling agency, and we have to adjust. And we have to adjust based on, one, the mindset, and if we take the mindset and then we go apply what the steps are, we then can get to the right side, and we can't get to the right side alone. Therefore, let's get to the right side with the BPT focus. That's my push. You have Owen, you have engineering, you have client advisors, you have all this support, you have marketing, and you have like content in supporting materials to get you to the right side. And this is just, you need to accept what side you want to be on. And if you want to go to the right side, that's why you're here today to learn. I mentioned this earlier in the go-to-market. These are just 3 scenarios that I think about. There's 1,000 of these. You can't boil the ocean. So like start with this crawl, walk, run approach and start with it with the marketing. Do the marketing on existing. Once you understand the existing, understand those profiles, then look at sales, new logos. Evers keeps saying it, we're a new logo machine. Frankly, we're a new logo machine with like little focus on new logo. So like, let's get better at it and let's be more tailored to what we should do. And then for those of you using the client advisors, this is just a whole ecosystem on how you think about getting in front of those customers. And when I think about where Bridgepointe sits as a platform, this is my view. This is actually not a Scott Kinka approved slide, so we'll pretend he doesn't know about it. But this is really what it is. And if you think about the lowest level of this whole thing, you have agency, you have services, you have TEM with tech view, and then you get this information, you put it in the signal, and then we get to go amplify and recommend what to go do next. This is the simplistic view that we can support you all day long going forward. And as we do that, the big questions that we start to ask can't just be like, how do we help you? It's how do we help the customer? And how do we help our suppliers be smarter in regards to what they're doing? And so the left side of the slide are like the 5 kind of scenarios, I guess we'll put it as, like what to think about. And these are questions you ask yourself. These are questions like, what can we deliver information-wise to make you smarter? You go help the business, the customer. Obviously, how do we help you? But if you look at the far right, the better that we get with this information collectively, the smarter we can actually become with our suppliers. And so all of this starts to come together. And as we flush out and like structure all the data flying around, we're going to make it useful so we can get to this stage. So intent is one part of it. There's data flying around that you guys have with contract terms, with product data, etc., attributes, firmographics, as I mentioned. This is what we're trying to get to. And this is what you're going to start to see over the next 90, 120 days is just surfacing all this information to you, leveraging from the starting point, the intent, what we're now calling synergy, and then we'll get into the run going forward. Make sense? All right, I'll hand it over to Maria, who now will take my vision and probably some of the stuff I made up, but actually apply it to how you can use every single day based on what we have today in the signal with our team.
No pressure. Okay, so I know a lot of you, and I don't know a lot of you. But for those of you that have been involved with a lot of what we're doing on the marketing side, we've grown a lot in the last 18 months, 2 years. So the biggest thing that most people are familiar with on the marketing side is our account-based marketing capability that's in the signal, and all that really is pushing email drips to prospects and to existing customers, right? So that's all great, but again, without the intent, it's just kind of out there. It goes out, and you certainly hope it's the, what did you call it? The spray and pray approach?
Yes.
So, all right, so, sorry, that one weird. But we've definitely created a bit of a better ecosystem, and thanks to Sterl and his team, the capabilities Christina's on this team, thank you. The capabilities have really just continued to widen and to deepen, and so we're going to continue to evolve, right, as time goes on. But it really comes down to kind of these three components of it. So there's the account-based marketing, there's enrolling your contacts into the drip campaigns, then there's what happens after, right? So what are they doing? Are they clicking on things? Are they opening things? Are they filling out forms? Are they visiting our website? All of that is interaction metrics, right? So those are activities, like I mentioned, the opens, the clicks, etc. And it's really meant to be an interest indicator. So they show intent, you enroll them in ABM, and then all of a sudden, hey, they're interested. Hey, they opened something. And for those of you that have seen the metrics that are in the signal, you can see that they've opened something 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, right? So a lot of times if they open something once, it looks like they opened something once, it's probably just their firewall, thanks IT, but it's not necessarily a real open. But once you see that kind of repetitive pattern, and especially if it's in the same set of campaigns, that's a really good indicator. And so that's where we go into the marketing score. So the higher the score, a lot of you in this room have probably gotten a warm, hopefully a hot lead. It's your indicator to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I'm so-and-so with Bridgepointe. The other piece of that is, of course, those of you that have attended the last 2 sessions with Chelsea Cottrell from LinkedIn, who's here, is using social media, using LinkedIn. Those of you that have Navigator, that is a super important component. So if you aren't using Navigator today, we have a couple of spare licenses. But if you're not using it today and you have a license, you absolutely have to be using it every single day. It is so important just really to stay in front of your prospects and to make sure that when the time comes that you are not just some weird creepy person reaching out to them. But they already know you, right? So you're already engaging with them. So that targeted outreach and the engagement tracking on the LinkedIn side as well. So show of hands, who doesn't know what account-based marketing is and who hasn't heard me blather on about it? Okay, good. All right. So why account-based marketing? What does it do? It engages with a purpose and it builds relationships gradually. Now, you know, those of you that have used it, we try and update the content every quarter. And right now we're trying to expand the different types of marketing campaigns that we're offering. And we're going to continue to do that month over month, quarter after quarter, year after year, hopefully. The marketing score as a signal, again, we talked about this. If it's cold, now there's different levels, right? They could be cold at a 5, they could be cold at a 30, but once they kind of get to that 50 and up, that's really just a good indicator that they're interested in something. And again, that plays into the whole intent. They have intent, but now they're actually showing that they're truly interested. And it also gives you an indication of when to reach out. So you're not just necessarily reaching out hoping that they remember they clicked on something or that they got an email from you. And then of course, tracking success. So we do have all of these metrics that are already built into the signal where you can go in and you can sort and you can group by, hey, here's my 5 warm leads that I got an email from the other day. It's 8:30 in the morning and I'm going to go into LinkedIn Navigator and I'm just gonna go in and see what it is that these people are up to. Okay, any questions so far before we go into the outreach? So there's 3 types of outreach scenarios. There's the unknown prospect. These are going to be lead list uploads that, again, you have no idea what their intent is. So there's no intent here, right? They're just completely unknown. Now, what we suggest doing is researching and personalizing with any industry insights, which we've made easy for you because we have awesome blogs and podcast episodes and different assets that we're putting out there. Enroll them in the Bridgepointe newsletter. So if you are apprehensive about enrolling them into a sales-specific campaign or a practice-specific campaign, please enroll them in the newsletter. It's once a month. It's super easy. Set it and forget it. Every month we cover a different topic. We try and rotate. We try and add different assets. And again, all of that is being tracked on the back end. Now, if there is synergy, again, make sure that this time you can enroll them in something that is specific. So if there is intent that is being shown, from that ZoomInfo data or from LinkedIn Navigator, this is your indication that they need to go into a specific campaign. So if they're showing intent in security, if they're showing intent in UCAS, data center, etc., this is just a really good opportunity for you to really hone in on that. And then nurturing existing. So again, make sure that they're in the newsletter, and then just continue to regularly share the relevant updates and products or just the content that we have out there on social media. Those of you that aren't in the social automation program, you should enroll. But we essentially post on your behalf a couple times a week, and it's not really meant to replace anything that you guys are doing organically. In fact, we want you to post, we want you to be a human being, but it does allow you to push out a lot of that relevant content that we're posting, and it gives you that thought leadership, that visibility that you know exactly what you're talking about, even if you don't. All right, so I did a little bit of research myself. Out of curiosity, I was on LinkedIn Navigator, and as I was helping Chelsea prep for her sessions earlier today, and I all of a sudden noticed that we had, and this is again, this was not anything from ZoomInfo originally, this was not something that came through Salesforce, but I noticed that for some odd reason, Lockheed Martin, which is a huge organization, it's a huge company, was showing high buyer intent for Bridgepointe. So I looked at, it must have been at least 20 to 30 different contacts. They all had different types of roles. So I started doing some research, and I started narrowing down these individuals and just seeing if I could kind of cross-reference. It was a little bit of detective work, honestly, because when I went into our Salesforce, I knew there was already somebody that had Lockheed Martin as their customer. But when I started digging into it and I started looking at their ZoomInfo and their intent data, who's the guilty party? They were actually showing high intent in several areas. A, cybersecurity, I can't remember what, something else. So I started kind of cross-referencing the individuals, and I narrowed it down to 3 individuals specifically on LinkedIn Navigator and enrolled them in campaigns, enrolled them in the newsletter. And that's kind of when the magic happens, right? You can see that score, you can see that they're actually interested, and then after a couple of days, you reach out, and all 3 of them accepted an invite from me. Now, yes.
Did you narrow them down by title, or what was it that?
So that was interesting. I actually, at first, one was a title, the other one I kind of had to be creative because they've changed a couple of titles, apparently, since ZoomInfo. So neither platform, obviously LinkedIn Navigator gives you the most accurate information as far as titles, right? So that's their most recent title. Theoretically, if they updated it and they're pretty active on social, which luckily these individuals were. This one is just an example because I have contacts that we have in common, but I would say it's a combination of both. So if you, I don't know if you were in the other sessions with LinkedIn, but neither platform will give you 100% accuracy. So you kind of have to do a little bit of digging, but I was able to narrow it down, and it did take me a little while. But once you do narrow it down, that effort does really pay off, because then all of a sudden you have someone that has extremely high intent in whatever it is that they're interested in, or whatever it is that it's not just organizationally, because now you have intent that's in, synergy, that's in the signal or coming out of ZoomInfo, and then you have intent that's coming out on an individual level in LinkedIn. So combining those 2, they go into campaign, you start reaching out, they start showing that they're really interested in something. So that's, honestly, I was surprised that it worked that well. It took a little bit of effort on my part, but I think that that speaks for itself. So, questions? No? All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you can add people to the different marketing campaigns based on the user, not necessarily the company, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So it is user based. I don't think we can do company right now. Yeah, we can do company.
Because think of it as like contact or employee. The way I always break it down as like, you can message an employee, there's no way to message Apple.
Yeah.
Right.
So all the contacts need to be in the system. And then the only caveat in kind of the rules of engagement would be if Maria's in there and tagged to Kyle, and Kyle's trying to market to Maria, in the back end, HubSpot gives Maria an ID, like a marketing ID. So when you try to add Maria, you can't market to Maria because Maria's already being marketed to.
Okay.
We do a screen pop, we tell you, hey, go double check with the sales leader, because it could be like mass enrollment, just spray them with a bunch of different campaigns, there's no activity, and so on the back end, you guys can have a conversation. But that's how the structure would be.
It is, and HubSpot's really good at, it's really good at telling you like, hey, this person has low engagement, right? Like they're not opening any of our emails. They're not, we don't even know if they exist at this point. It may not be bouncing back or hard bouncing, but I mean, why would you want to continuously market to someone who's not responding, right? So, but it's good at kind of suppressing some of those contacts out. Yes.
What are the action items on the email? For one, I mean, is there any things they click that will be notified? Also,
Yes.
Can they reply to the email and they get notified? Where does that go and what happens to it?
So I'll do the reply, you do the CTA. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So on the initial send, the way we have it set up is it'll come from strategist. So we have that as the default. If you use the client advisor team, we have the capability to say from strategist or from the CA. Whoever the email comes from, like that's the person, that's their email. So if coming from you, customer wants to, or prospect or contact replies, it's gonna come back to you. At the same time, it will do its scoring internally on the system. So you will see email back. And if you went in the system, then you would see opens or clicks, etc. within that contact as well.
For the CTAs, so right now they're soft. We're trying to make them a little bit more intense. But right now, yes, it is click on this blog if you want thought leadership, download this case study. With the updates with the newer updates to the microsites, which hopefully will be out here in the next couple of weeks, we're looking at maybe customizing that so that if they click on something, they go to your landing page or your microsite versus just a blog that's on Bridgepointe proper, right? So we're working on that. We're working on creating that so that you guys have specific attribution to you on the email side. Yes.
In one of the other sessions, I saw that there was accountability on the bottom.
Yes, there is. Yep. If you fill that field in, it'll pull in. So the fields are in there. It's just if you're not filling that information in on the Salesforce side, or if that information isn't filled in, it's not going to pull, right?
So that's linked to my personal account.
It is.
Yeah.
If that's linked, you could put anybody's Calendly link in there, but yeah, it will theoretically pull from your profile. Yes.
On the marketing campaigns, do we be going in, like there was talk that like every 6 weeks or 8 weeks they expire and you need to reset them, is that right? Or is that false?
If you leave them, that's because most recently, yeah, that was the case because we updated the way that we push the campaigns out. But moving forward, if you leave them in there, what happens is you get an email at the end, right? So if somebody goes through 3 or 4 drips, you get an email that says, hey, this person unsubscribed, or hey, this person opened all the emails or they clicked. And it's up to you. You can leave them in that same exact campaign, and then when we update the emails, they'll just restart. Or that's your indication that maybe, hey, they showed no interest in cybersecurity. I'm going to take them out and put them in data center.
Yeah, Brock, I think it's a good comment of like,
Yeah.
to Maria's point of pull them out because they're not interested, but you also can move them around if they are interested. Like, I'm interested in UCAS or CX or whatever. Why am I going to keep sending you the same email when I've talked to you? So I think it's a good comment to the group is the prompt of they've opened something, talk to them, determine are they still interested. And still interested doesn't mean you have to stay in the campaign. There's some flexibility there based on how you set that up.
Yeah, one more, sorry. If they unsubscribe from that email, does it unsubscribe from like all future emails too, or just that specific campaign?
So that depends, right? They can unsubscribe from all communications. We do have options if they want to stay, like company updates would be a newsletter. Practice specific, if they unsubscribe from everything, then that's your answer. Otherwise,
No getting them back.
yeah, there's no getting them back. And that can be a good thing, right? Because then you're not wasting your energy or their time. And, yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Nothing?
Nothing? All right. I think they're all ready to party.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say, like, it's not a one and done. So if you think of something, we can do a follow up. We have Salesforce or Signal office hours. We do with the marketing team as well. But don't walk out of here doing nothing. That's my only request. Like, try something, and then let's figure out like what we need to tweak to help you out. So thank you.